One of the core aspects of skateboarding that brings people together is accomplishing things that were previously thought to be impossible. This is prevalent through the entire history of skateboarding, starting as early as the most basic tricks ever invented, then with pool and vert skating, then with the transition to street skateboarding in the mid to late 80s, skaters started to skate things that were never thought to be possible. They started to grind ledges and rails and started jumping off of stair sets and then doing tricks down them. At the time, this was completely revolutionary for skateboarding, and a new trick that was thought to be impossible was being landed every single month. Ultimately, this led to bigger and more difficult tricks being done, which brings us to modern skateboarding today, where you have 10-year-olds board sliding El Toro before heading off to school and doing 900s as a warm-up. So today in this video, I'll be covering some of the most insane things ever done on a skateboard that nobody would believe if it wasn't recorded on video. This is what you get after 70 years of innovation in skateboarding. Up first, we have Jeremy Ray's Water Tower Gap. To this day, nobody has topped Jeremy Ray's Water Tower Gap, and it's for a good reason. Doing anything bigger is pretty much a guaranteed death sentence. The water towers are about 40 feet high and 16 feet across.
So this one's got it about 16 feet right there.
Is that your longest ollie ever?
No,
Flat to flat.
flat to flat, probably.
But for me, the most impressive part, beside the trick itself, is that Jeremy had to run and jump over the gap each time before he could make another attempt.
And running and jumping it back was way worse in my mind than ollieing it.
Just for the record, the average distance of a long jump is 19 feet for a high school track athlete that is a senior. Jeremy is an amazing skater, but by no means is he a track athlete. And you can see for yourself just how close he is landing to the edge with just mere inches to spare. One wrong step and it would be about a 50% chance of death if he fell to the ground based on false statistics from a similar height. But the most terrifying thing that most people don't know about this jump is that there were actually small rocks on top of the water towers that Jeremy had to sweep out of the way. This is what he said when asked about it years later in an interview.
You would think there wouldn't be rocks up there, right? But there are rocks up there.
Right. Yeah.
Tons of them. I was going as fast as I could, getting close to the edge, taking my last push, and a rock goes pop, 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 pop. Right out in front of me, like it popped out of the wheel and kept going.
Wow.
And it didn't go out of my path either. But I'm going too fast to stop. That rock bouncing in your mind while you're hitting that tail is just such a mind melter.
Yeah.
What I find hilarious is that after he landed this absolutely insane trick and made skateboarding history, he went about his day as if nothing even happened, and he even filmed a beginner tip video later that same day. Danny Way, the Great Wall of China. Back in the 50s when surfers put rollerblades under boards and carved down hills, I bet nobody was even thinking that somebody would take one of these things and jump the Great Wall of China. And I bet if Danny Way didn't jump the Great Wall of China, skaters still to this day wouldn't think it was possible. The funny thing is though, is that he was actually struggling to find a place in the Great Wall of China that was big enough to put his mega ramp.
I guess it's just not as big as I envisioned in some spots, so I'm trying to find an area that I'd feel good about. I wouldn't want to cheat on this one, so I'm trying to find some section we're trying to find a section here that would actually be a legitimate jump for me. Jumping from there over here is the widest spot of the wall, which I feel does the most justice for skateboarding and the possibility of breaking a world record. So
not only would he be jumping the Great Wall of China, but he would also be attempting to break not one, not two, but 3 world records at the same time. For fastest acceleration on a skateboard, longest distance jumped on a skateboard, and highest distance jumped from the quarter pipe.
Now the ramp is split into 2 sections. The first part being the takeoff area, which has a 60-degree steepness to it. It means that Danny will accelerate from 0 to 55 miles per hour quicker than a Porsche turbo. He then hits the kicker and flies over what is called the open zone. On landing on the second part of the structure, he's looking to put that skateboard in an area which he calls the sweet spot. He will then land, accelerate once again, and look to break yet another world record by flying the highest any other skateboarder has ever flown out of the halfpipe, in excess of 25 feet into the air, and then landing back into the halfpipe. The crowd will be going crazy, and Danny Way from California will have broken 3 world records in just one jump over the Great Wall of China.
The day before the official jump, he was doing some so-called practice jumps, and on his first attempt, he didn't account for the air density. Yes, you heard me right. The air was much more humid than in the California desert where he was practicing before. Because of this, he had more drag flying through the air, and as soon as he took off, he knew he wasn't going to make it. He landed short on the knuckle, and the sound of him hitting the ground sounded just like a gunshot. Despite having the worst case scenario happen, he got off pretty lucky without any fractures, but he did sprain his ankle very badly. Most skaters would at least have to take a few weeks to months off to heal before they step back on a skateboard again. But Danny Way knew that if he didn't do that jump the next day, he would probably never get the opportunity again.
I took a pretty good blow to my ankle. Pretty lucky I'm standing on it right now. I mean, obviously, you know, I've put a lot of energy and time into making this happen, and an ankle injury is not going to take me out at this point. So today I feel is going to be a big success, and we're going to get it done.
And after all the work, time, money, and approval from the Chinese government it took to build a goddamn mega ramp on their historic wall, Danny Way was determined to make it happen. "'Tis but a scratch," he said.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
You liar!
Come on, you pansy.
So he popped a few pain meds and went to battle. As he limped up the ramp, the anticipation grew. He didn't land it on his first attempt, but he cleared a knuckle and landed exactly where he wanted to. This gave him a big boost of confidence, but you could tell that he was in pain by the way he was stopping to take breaks as he walked back up. Regardless, he pushed through because that wasn't going to stop him. His second attempt was a success. He cleared the wall, but he was not finished just yet. He walked back up and did it again, this time doing a 360 over the gap. A true legend and a pioneer of skateboarding, I could honestly make this whole video just about things that he has done himself. Aaron Hamoki, aka Jaws, on the Leon 25. Aaron Hamoki, also known as Jaws, has a reputation for sending massive jumps. But the difference between him and someone like Danny Way is that he does it on the streets. Unlike something that's made for skateboarding like mega ramps, on the streets you have factors in play that you just cannot account for. There might be a small crack in the pavement that slows you down, ending up in you eating it because you don't have enough speed. But this is exactly where Jaws strives. One day when he was a young skater, he was watching a skateboarding video where Ali Boulala attempted to jump this same massive stair set, ultimately ending in him giving up after injuring his feet. This stair set would become known as the Leon 25 because it's in Lyon, France, and you guessed it, it has 25 stairs. I don't even need to make any comparisons to show how big it is. Just look at how small he looks standing on top of it. It's an absolute monster stair set. Watching that Ali Boulala video inspired Jaws to go bigger, and eventually the day came that Jaws would take on the beast himself. And right away, on one of his first attempts, he had his board break in two under his feet, causing him to do his splits, tear his MCL in the process, and imprint the texture of the ground onto his balls.
Yeah, so I just got back from the doctor. Said that I tore my MCL. It's going to take about 6 to 8 months to heal. I know I can do it, so I definitely want to go back.
Despite taking that absolutely massive slam, Jaws was not finished. So after taking a few months to recover, he came back to this spot with his friends, family, and Ali Boulala himself there to support him. After a tremendous battle of slamming after slamming after slamming, and even having one of his wheels break off his board from the force of the impact,
His wheel broke off.
His bearing stayed on, and his wheel just ripped off through the bearing.
he was finally able to land it and roll away. Becoming even more of a skateboarding goat than he already is. Clive Dixon, Water Tower Board Sled. So you've heard about the Water Tower Gap, but how about this? A rail connecting two water towers that is 50 feet off the ground. And if that wasn't enough, the landing is on a thin sheet of rusty steel that bends when you jump on it, with a pipe on your left side, a ventilation cover of some kind on your right, and exactly on the spot that you need to land, there's a piece of metal sticking out that will stop your board and slam you onto the ground.
I was just worried about him falling over, and then one of the times, like the early tries, his board fell off the side. Like, I'm glad that's not him, but that's a long way down.
Oh, and I almost forgot, he's landing uphill because of the arch of the roof on the tower. Clive literally had nothing going for him. This is just one of those spots where you have to take a step back and think, how many red flags do you need before you decide it's just not worth it? Like, even if you do make it down the rail and avoid falling to your death, your best shot of getting the trick is to pretty much land onto a skate stopper uphill. Well, Clive didn't care. He saw the impact that Jamie Ray had off his water tower gap, and he wanted to have his own Water Tower Hall of Fame moment. And to say this spot put up a battle is an understatement. It put up a war against Clyde. Slamming him on the metal roof over and over again, he kept on going, eventually pulling his hamstring after stepping on the sign that he put over the built-in skate stopper. But he would not give up, and against all odds, he was able to land it and secure this insanely cool Thrasher cover, which in many ways resembles that same water tower gap from Jeremy Ray.
Yeah, when we were walking away, I was like, yo, Mike, I made a little revision to my will last night in case things went sour today. And he just looked at me and goes, don't say that.
Henry Gartland, the Kinker. 30 years ago in skateboarding, no one would have thought grinding a kinked rail was even possible, let alone a rail with 8 kinks. For those unfamiliar with the term, a kink in a rail is when it transitions from going down to going flat. If it goes down, flat, those are 2 kinks. The flat parts are the 2 kinks. And if you keep adding more and more of those, it just keeps going. The reason it was thought to be impossible for a long time was just because nobody ever thought of doing rails for a long time, and when it did rails were already cool as hell, and they were hard to do, but then if you add a kink in the mix, it just throws everything off. The reason why this is so much more impressive than just some regular old long rail with no kinks is because each kink requires you to shift your weight slightly to avoid sticking to the rail. So pretty much, when you're trying to grind on a rail with kinks, it's like you're playing 4D chess with your balance. You need to balance from side to side and back and forth. The kinks can also cause your trucks to come off the rail and make you fall, which makes it a very difficult trick to do, even though with just a single kink in the rail, let alone 8. And as you'd expect, Henry Gartland fell in just about every way imaginable. After 4 grueling sessions, he was finally able to roll away and add it to a long list of tricks most skaters wouldn't even dare to try. And I just love the emotion that he has when he lands it. You can tell that he's happy and he's truly living in the moment. But unfortunately, only 3 years after landing his trick, Henry died from the apparent suicide at 21 years old, which is a really tragic fate for such a young and talented skater. We all have our own lows in life, and some of us have it worse than others, so remember to be compassionate to other people, even if you don't agree with them, and if you are feeling depressed or lonely, reach out to somebody and talk about it instead of bottling it all in. And no matter what you're going through, remember that nothing lasts forever, and from the lowest lows often come the highest highs. If you're interested in learning more about these skaters, check out my Skate Stories playlist, and let me know what other moments you think I should have included in this video that I missed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am glad to be back after my 1-year hiatus from this YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe if you're new, like it if you liked it, and I'll see you guys again next week.